All right, call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Hanson.
Here.
Glass.
Here.
Tucker.
Here.
Sheelight.
Here.
Sherman. Fisher.
Here.
Swallow. Here.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting from April 9th, 2025.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second. Roll call, please.
Tucker.
Yes.
Glass.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sheelight.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Swallow. Yes.
Discussion on financial statement from April 2025.
Do you want me to just hop in?
Yeah, I brought Sadie here to
Okay.
discuss what happened, why we have a negative balance.
So I passed it out because I didn't realize the Excel had cut it off. Right now, ADA shows a negative cash balance from pooled cash because we are reconciling all the swimming pool accounts and realized that in February of 2024, February 23rd to be exact, they moved money from the ICS account to pooled cash to pay us in pay app 1. Not a big deal. Then, for some reason, April 12th of 2024, in a giant reimbursement to pooled cash for pool expenses, they transferred money for the groundbreaking expenses, the health department expense, Kimley Horn, engineering, and pay app 1 a second time. So they moved that into pooled cash to reimburse for expenses, so that pay app 1 should not have been moved the second time. So I had contacted our auditor, asked what I needed to do, and since it technically should not have been moved the second time, it needed to go back to ICS. So I made it go back to, I moved the money from pooled cash to the ICS account at Alva State, so it is back in the ICS and ready for expenses that are coming up. That was before I started, so I'm not sure how it happened. I'm just very glad whoever inputted the journal entry for that transfer is very detailed. That's how I caught it, because I was like, why does that say pay app 1? We've already paid pay app 1. So in talking with Paul, our auditor at Crawford's, I asked him if, and that's what the email attached, I asked him if this would reflect in 2020, fiscal year 24, since that's when it happened. But he says it has to reflect on the books, and they'll make the adjustments for FY25 because that's when the money was moved back. So even though the audit isn't closed out for FY24, it should be here in the next month or so. He can't go back and adjust because the cash was truly in pooled cash at that time, and then we moved it in another fiscal year. So then when they start doing their audit work for FY25 here in a couple months, they will make the adjustments. He did say it would make a negative cash balance because those expenses, you know, as Courtney has bought the picnic tables and stuff like that, it has been spent. We should catch back up when they do some of the adjustments. I just don't know how that's going to look. I'll be honest. I don't know how that's going to look on the other side of it. So that's the information I have. I'm glad I caught it. I mean, it did help for swimming pool expenses because that's what it's for. And it was still in the ADA, so it was not moved to any other fund. It stayed in the ADA. It was used in the ADA. So the restricted access was still in ADA. So that's why it's reflected on ADA cash. So that's the information I have at the time. I can get Paul on the phone if I need to at the next meeting. I'm glad I found it, but I don't know how it happened. That was about 4 months before I started. So any questions that I can try to answer? Okay. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out and I will do my best to get it answered, and I can get our auditors on the phone, but we'll make it, I promise.
So, Steve, speaking of the pool, do we have the money to complete the pool and
We do.
the bathhouse and everything?
We do, not on hand. We have about a $287,000 shortfall, but we also have about a $287,000 contingency sitting at Kimley Horn. So assuming, and right now it doesn't look like we're having any reason to use that contingency between now and the time they're ready to open, we'll pull that money back from Kimley Horn and pay that final payout. It'll be
In the
good.
bathhouse.
That house, yeah, everything, that'll cover the whole 9 yards. So.
Good.
Yeah, it's coming along. I don't know if you guys drive up by there. The construction fence is down. No, I could probably wait and report this later, but, so that outer perimeter is down. We started prepping a couple of the, parking lots. So as soon as they're done with this acrylic work, we're gonna chip seal, and then after we get the chip seal, they're gonna plaster the, pool and fill it. So I think they're gonna do that. The Memorial Day weekend is when they're gonna start plastering and start filling that. As they plaster, they fill the pool. So that water pressure helps secure the plaster, which seems counterintuitive to me, but it does. So, but yeah, today they poured a bunch of curb and gutters, and then I think tomorrow or Friday they're gonna come in and pour the sidewalk on the east side. So that'll be pretty much done. We can really get over there and start doing our dirt work to get ready to put that driveway in, and a little bit of curb and guttering work on the west side, and that'll be ready to go. So, if you want to, feel free to stop by there anytime. Let me know, I'll meet you up there, and we can go meander about smartly and check it out.
So after they fill it, then what? What else?
Then, once Courtney gets done with all of her classes on, you know, how you run the pumps and the chemicals and all that kind of stuff, and what that all needs to look like, and I probably talked about this in the report, but once that's done, we got the lifeguards hired and our assistant manager hired. We feel comfortable setting a date for grand opening. So, have the ribbon cutting, all that kind of stuff. And we're not going to make a lot more there, I can tell you that much right now. So, but I'd rather do it right. Take a little more time to do it right than try to rush it and do it wrong. So, that's just me. My
Well, there's people up there working every day.
Oh yeah, they're working hard.
We can just blame the rain.
And matter of fact, we've already started masking off all the windows, all the light fixtures and everything. And Courtney's already bought the paint. And so as soon as we get the mini X up there and kind of pull the dirt back from the bottom of the pool house, we're going to send our spray rig up there and spray the outside and get a fresh coat of paint on it. So.
Do you have any other discussion on financial statement?
I'll just say something, like in the expenditure part, you do see some negative balances in there, and we'll just adjust those line items probably in the next month or so. We'll just move from one line to another, just to make sure that we don't show any. Who's the pool guy? Let me answer
Which one, Drew?
this. Drew.
We'll do budget line adjustments, so anywhere she did overspend, maybe she came over, we'll move it to where she maybe overspent. We do that every year with every account, just to kind of to clean it up before we close out the fiscal year, before the auditors close out their year.
All right, any other discussion? Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we'll go ahead and go to city council report, and then jump to the director's report after that.
All right. We swore in new and returning council members last month. We approved a memo of understanding between the tourism and the Alva Chamber of Commerce for an annual cost of $45,000. We approved the change order on the bathhouse that we had discussed earlier. And we had a budget retreat getting ready for 25-26.
Thank you.
What was the change order on the bathhouse?
Adjusting some of the walls to the decking and installing steel plates over the plumbing charges.
Yeah, and there's two, so in the each bathroom, there's a little janitorial closet, for lack of a better term. And the one in the women's bathroom, for some reason, they decided to put all the electronics, kind of like the telemetry, if you will, that run remotely, the pumps and everything like that. They decided to put it in that janitor's closet instead of putting it on the other side of the wall, which would have been smack in the manager's office. We don't know how that happened, but before we realized that all the conduit was already run. But in the plans, those walls in the janitor closet only went up to 6'8" and weren't enclosed. And so we talked about it and thought, you know, we probably better close those off because water and electronics don't get along real well. And sure enough, some kids have been there screw around in the shower and splashing water over that 6'8" wall and get those electronics wet. And so we just had them run that block all up to the ceiling so that it would be secure and dry. So try to protect our electronics from things going awry.
So that was something that Kenley Horn missed when they were.
Yeah. And Miller caught it and he took me down and I was like,
So it cost us for the change order, not
Yeah.
Kenley Horn?
yeah, it cost us.
Can we approve that?
We
I thought we
discussed
did.
it.
We discussed it.
We
Yeah.
discussed it.
Anybody else remember that? I don't
I don't
remember.
remember talking about that change order.
Well, we talked about it in the flooring. Because they had to do that, they had to bust out all that concrete and re-pour it because it was all dipped and just doing the, where the concrete overlay surfacing wasn't.
Is it a regular city council?
Yeah, so when was it that we approved that, or that change order?
We changed it, and we approved it with council at the last one.
I mean,
But we had
when,
discussed it with the flooring.
I don't remember what it was.
I don't know that,
A few months ago.
we didn't have, he brought it.
I don't think we had
brought it
a price or anything like that.
up. No, I don't think so, but we just brought it up, because it wasn't at the last meeting, it was at the one before.
We talked about it, I didn't have a price or anything yet at that point.
Yeah. So
Still
it would
waiting
have
on
been in the
change
March
orders to
meeting
decide
that we
what
kind
it
of
would be.
discussed it,
Yeah.
but
well, I just watched the city council meeting, and I heard y'all say that the rec board had approved it already, and I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I remember we talked about it, when we did talk about it, I didn't have a price for it yet.
I don't recall that.
I remember. It may have been part of her report, or the director's report too, when we brought it up.
So I just watched the city council meeting, and they talked about it. The rec board had already approved it, and it was a formality, and I don't remember. And so I couldn't find it. I just think it's odd that if it's something that Kenley Horn messed up on, that we would have to pay it. I mean, what?
There have been a few things like
What are we
that.
paying them for?
McKinley Horn?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, if they're engineers, they don't think those things over through sometimes. I mean, like I said, common sense would have told me to put those
Right.
electronics in the manager's office where there's not gonna be any water. But once again, they're engineers, they don't use a whole lot of common sense sometimes, so. Thank goodness for Miller looking through the plans and catching it.
So do they charge us for that, or they eat it?
We had to
Well,
pay.
we had to pay for it.
$13,535.
How much?
$13,535.
A lot of that was the steel plate part of the,
So does that cut into our contingency?
that's, we still have enough money without getting into contingency for that. So we had a couple of deducts too, that helped us cover that cost. So we're gonna have another deduct. We caught something yesterday that will, it won't save us much, but we're gonna be able to knock out, for some reason, if you go on the west side, they had these planters that came out from the sidewalk that were just gonna be grass areas that were just gonna be a pain in the butt to mow. And so I was like, why would you do that? Why not
It'd
just
stick
go-
out right in.
Yeah,
right
it's
there
gonna
in
stick out the
front
parking lot for somebody to run over and pop tires. Like, just make it straight. There's no sense in making those guys try to make a curb and gutter for something that we're not gonna use, not gonna plant shrubs or anything like that in it. I was like, this is dumb, just, and that's all saves a little bit of money too in concrete costs, so. We talked to Kenley Horn and, I said about that yesterday and he said that would, I said, it won't be significant savings, but it'll be some. You know, maybe enough to support a couple more picnic tables or something. Or shades for the lifeguard chairs. I don't know.
So Kenley Horn was gonna be okay with the space being left where the water could get in. They were okay with it, but
Yeah. Yeah. It boggles the mind to me. You know, my engineers, I don't know. Like I said, when you talk to them, like, what are you guys thinking? I don't know. Come on, guys, you gotta,
We discussed
but like I said,
it, but,
until Miller just happened to look at it, because he'd gone up there to do some inspection. And he asked him, he said, what's going on in this room? They told him the electronics for the toilet. And he's like, are these walls all the way to the top? And they're like,
the
no.
one that, yeah.
Then he came back and made me go up there, and I was like,
Steel
I don't know, we gotta call Kim Horn, this is, we
plumbing.
called us in, and Kim Horn said, hey guys, we gotta figure something out here.
I don't think we ever discussed it.
I thought we did, but I may be wrong.
I don't remember it.
I think we talked about it,
I don't
but I don't know
that
that it was,
I don't think that we,
I
I
don't
didn't
think-
have that we.
I think you may have brought it up in your director's report, is what I think happened.
talked about it.
We didn't
I don't know that
take,
it
we didn't take any
I
action.
don't know if there's the action.
I can tell you, we didn't take
It
any
wasn't
action.
something we approved.
It hasn't been an action item on our agenda.
No. I went back and looked, I didn't see one, so. All right. Director's report.
Very successful tournament this last weekend. Had a lot of compliments. Had some suggestions, which something we've talked about before, netting between the fields for safety of a bunch of kids running around there. Had a couple bathroom issues, but those are fixable. Our bathrooms are not the best anyway, but they work. But no, everything was great. We had a lot of people, probably a little over 1,300 people out there. Several called back, first of the week, signing up for our other tournaments that are coming up. I got a tournament this weekend, softball, don't have very many teams. 6 in the 10U and hopefully 4 teams. Right now I have 3, but I'm waiting to hear back from somebody. T-ball, coach pitch, machine pitch sign-ups. I got 165 kids in that league. We're starting to split those up now. Had graduation parties inside, some end of school year class parties, school parties out there, so that's all going really well. Then been working at the pool, or working with the pool stuff. In fact, that was the pool guy. We're getting chemical in tomorrow, and I don't know if I told you that, but chemical will be delivered tomorrow.
I just got sometimes we can do those tomorrow.
And so that'll be delivered in, and I'm going to go up there tomorrow and make sure that came in okay, and talk to JC that's with Ascend. She's going to be on site tomorrow and kind of try to nail down specific dates as to when plaster for sure can go down. We can't have any dust or any dirt blowing for that. And I got to let Drew know so he can get the slide inspection done about the same time they put the plaster in, because there's got to be water going through the slides for the slide inspector to come inspect those slides. I'm working on a CPO license, which is a certified pool operator's license. I think I found a couple I can do online, which will be good, but I've got to have that before Drew can train me in the mechanical building with all of the chemicals and how everything works. Lifeguard interviews first of next week on Monday and Tuesday. Only had one person apply for the pool manager position, so we are still, kind of looking for more applicants that direction, or talking about maybe other options as far as what we could do to at least get us open with some, how do I want to say this nicely, I guess, with the right person in charge when it starts. So in the long run, that may have to be, not in the long run, the short run, that may have to be me just for a little bit until we find somebody, between Krista and I, until we find somebody that we feel can fill that. So, but besides that, I haven't been doing anything else. I think that's about it, yeah.
All right. Presentations from Ephesus and Shawnee Lighting.
Yep. Thank you guys for having us out.
Thank you for.
Can I steal the clicker so I can?
Who's gonna present? I don't know. That's good.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for having us out. You guys have had a few lighting presentations, I think. So this is a big project for you guys, and I think our goal here is to present another option to you guys and be as flexible as we can to work with you and really identify the needs and figure out, the budget constraints and what we can do to work within what you guys are working with. So that's kind of the overall goal of our presentation. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Dylan Mooney. I work for Ephesus Sports Lighting. We are the sports lighting brand for Cooper Lighting, which is Signify, which is the largest lighting manufacturer in the entire world. So I work directly for the factory. This is Seth Morgan. He works for Premier Lighting out of Edmond, Oklahoma. So they are our local sales representation. So these are the feet on the street. These guys go out and, if there's ever issues or we want somebody on site, they are out there working and helping solve problems and things like that. So we're super lucky to have them. And then didn't realize that Mark Stinky was coming. He's with the installer. So I've got him listed in here a little bit later. So everything that we're talking and all the numbers that you see are full turnkey installed numbers, right? So it's a complete package. And I'm going to buzz through this thing because I always put too many slides in there, and I know we have 20 minutes, so let me pull my phone out so I can keep an eye on it. So as I was saying, right, if you look at that center pink line there, this is a history of the company. It's kind of a tough chart to read, right? But Ephesus back in 2011 was the first company ever to invent LED sports lighting, right? So we've had sports lighting for a long time, but this was the first time that LED came around. After that, we had all of these firsts, first light a Super Bowl, first light NFL Stadium, all these things. And then we get purchased by Cooper Lighting Solutions, which is a lighting manufacturer in North America, and then Cooper gets bought by Signify. So that's kind of how we've fallen under this. It's been awesome for us just because now we get all these extra resources and capabilities and product improvements and access to engineers and things like that to make our products better. So what I like to remind everybody is that we are, a lighting manufacturer. So you're going to hear from some companies, if you already haven't, that are just importing fixtures from China. They put, their name on it, and then they resell it to you as if it was their fixture that they designed and made and everything like that. And that is simply not what we do. So we are an actual lighting manufacturer. We have our own plants. We have our Ephesus headquarters, which is up in Syracuse, New York. We do all of our own in-house design, engineering, testing, everything like that. So these are highly engineered fixtures. You can kind of see we're the first to bring LED to all these. And so as it started, right, we've lit 5 of the last 8 Super Bowls. LED was just something that was expensive, and you could only access it if you were a professional, big Division I college. So we did a lot of that kind of work. And now it's kind of trickling down into this high school and rec type level of lighting. And so, at this point, it's really fun for us because we get to bring this great technology right from, Allegiant Stadium where the Super Bowl is played and put it in a park and rec situation. You just have that cost barrier to get past. And I think everybody is pretty well familiar now with LED, the benefits, the advantages. Fixtures last a lot longer. They're a lot more efficient. You're using half the power. So to summarize what we offer, right, we try to, like I was saying, we try to be a very flexible, modular type system to where we're going to adapt to whatever infrastructure you have. So rather than you having to replace your poles, replace your cross arms, or whatever it is, we're going to have a system that, unique to your situation, will work for you and will still bring you all of these benefits. And so that's kind of, when I get into the design of the complex, that's really what we focused on. It's a little bit unique because obviously, if you look at this, you guys know better than I do. You've definitely rearranged your fields quite a bit over the years, right? So you've shortened fields, you've brought them in, and you still have those outfield poles that are way out there, intended for full-size baseball fields. So there's a lot of different unique challenges on the design front. And then obviously we've got a college component here where we've got some collegiate teams playing. So here's, kind of the photometric design, which that link that he posted, they have access to it, right? All the full designs and full quotes and everything like that are in there. So you can take a look at it. So what we tried to come up with was a reasonable way to reuse the infrastructure that you have, light all of the fields, how you have them arranged today appropriately to recommended levels, and not have to do too much maneuvering and changing poles and changing things like that. Not that we can't do that, right? So if you ever decide, hey, we want to move these poles in. We're never going to make this field larger. It would just make more sense if we move this infrastructure around. We can certainly do all of that. It's just that is another big expense that's going to get added on here. So, what I've got on the baseball fields and on the 3 kind of softball fields is what we call like high school rec light levels. It's what your fields were originally designed to in terms of light levels. And then on this collegiate softball field, right, it's a little bit smaller, but we use that same infrastructure. we're going to have more light there to actually hit the NCAA lighting criteria. So all those schools, if they want to host games and tournaments and postseasons and things like that, NCAA gives them all requirements to keep up with it. And not to say that on the rec side you don't have standards, but it's more or less no one's coming to check, right? So when you're running a tournament, it's not like somebody's coming out to say, oh, your light levels have to be here and here. Now, having better light actually helps bring in tournaments and keep teams there, and it just improves the facility in general. So, and by the way, if you guys have any questions about this stuff, stop me, because I'm gonna roll through it fast, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. And then soccer, you've got 2 soccer fields that we've also got included in that quote. So that quote encompasses retrofitting and installing all new lighting on all of those fields. So the installation process, right? So Dane Electric, Shawnee Lighting, we've got Mark Stanky right here. Tons and tons of experience. I mean, they have decades of experience of actually installing sports lighting, whether it be metal halide or now LED. And so that installation number that's included in that price is through them. The scope is to remove all of the metal halide fixtures. It's to install new wiring on the poles, install new fixtures. This fixture right here, basically it's like a 1-for-1 swap of what's up there, right? So this is a 1500 watt metal halide replacement equivalent. It's only 680 watts, so that's where you see that power kind of cut in half. But it puts out the same amount of light, and it covers the field in the same manner. Go ahead.
So that light's going to replace those 4 or 8 or 10 bulbs?
Well, 1-for-1. Yeah.
Okay, so if there's 8 or 10 bulbs, there's going to be 8 or 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty close. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And now we reduce it when we can. Like if we did a 1-for-1 and we're a little bit higher than those light level standards, we'll pull some fixtures out just to meet the standard. And the other thing I'll say about that standard is, so we design those fields with what we call a light loss factor. So it's an 8% hit right off the top on those computer files that we use, so that even 10 years down the road, when these fixtures degrade after 55,000 hours, they will degrade by 8% lumen loss. That's what they're rated for. So even after that degradation, you still are hitting those levels that we were originally designing for. So if that makes sense, that's how we kind of make sure that through the life of the project, you keep the proper light levels. The scope of work also includes installing a new air mesh control system. So we use a wireless control system. It's phenomenal. We've installed it at thousands of fields. And essentially what it does is it uses the fixtures and it creates a mesh network. So if you're familiar with any type of mesh Wi-Fi systems at home or anything like that, we have a hub that's going to send out a signal. It finds the very first fixture. It tells that fixture what to do, and that fixture repeats the signal out to the other fixtures. So from one hub, we can actually piggyback and leapfrog from cloverleaf to cloverleaf, and the signal can still talk to each other. So that if you were just on the college softball field and you got on your phone and you clicked, I want to turn this field on, from that hub it sends the signal and it, boom, bounces it to that field. And so that's how the fixtures talk to each other. The huge advantage to this control system is that you actually get to maintain individual fixture control. So you have unlimited customization with how you want to control these fixtures. You can fully dim them. You can set any number of scenes that you want. We have a lot of complexes that will set like a security scene where they just have a couple fixtures on per field or something, just to throw some light out there. That can just be as simple as programming a little scene and just having whatever fixtures you want come on at night and stay on. And you set the schedule and you go. You also get basically unlimited access from anywhere in the world. So, you can be traveling, you'll have this app on your phone, or you can access it from a desktop computer, and you can get in there and see what's going on. Do we have a fixture outage? Is there a tournament that needs me to change the schedule? Anything like that, you have the ability to customize and play with the lights as much as you want. Then you can assign levels of access. So if you guys want to have top level of access, but you want the college softball coach to have access just to that field and just turn those lights on and off, you can set up a different user account with different permissions and give them access to it. So the nice part about these is we're not limited in any way with your current infrastructure. Like you can do full dimming, you can do individual fixture control, and that is a huge, huge difference to using this system versus other antiquated control systems. So the scope includes the setup of that, the commissioning, and then you'll get a full controls training and customization meeting. So it's actually a pretty awesome meeting. We've done it several times with everyone that we've installed. They'll go through and they'll just ask, how do you want these controls set up? What specific scenes? How do you use the facility? And you can set up any number of scenes. And like I said, it's fairly intuitive, so you can get in there and play with it too. So the product that we're using, we call this our LumaSport 8 fixture. There's just some images of it. I should have went back, but so essentially what you have here is 8 LEDs, and if you can kind of see the yellow chips in there, that's actually the LED chip itself. Those are chip on board LEDs, meaning there's no soldering to the actual board itself. It is a chip built into the board, and it is sitting behind a silicone optic, which is very important here. So that chip is sitting there, and when light passes, or when energy passes through it, right, it's a light emitting diode, it produces light. That silicone optic is how we design where do we want the light to go, right? We don't want it to just be a big spray of light, kind of like the metal halide lights. We actually want to direct this in a specific pattern. So there's different beam patterns for different fixtures, right? And then when we put it in the computer program, we design these fields perfectly to where this fixture has to be this optic type and it has to be aimed in that spot. And once they're all aimed perfectly, it is a smooth, you don't see any light spots, hot spots, dark spots. It's just a very uniform lighting. The advantage to using silicone optics, this is a huge difference between us and our competitors, is that if you've ever had car headlights that yellow over time or start to look nasty, that's because it's a plastic, right? It's a polycarbonate lens. With heat and UV radiation, that starts to yellow over time. We learned that the hard way with our very first fixtures, because it's a lot cheaper to use polycarbonate and plastic lensing. After a few years, you start to realize, oh man, the light levels are not what we originally designed them for. It's because that lens is blocking the light. So we switch over, we use silicone optics that do not degrade. So that lumen degradation is actually going to come from the chip. And then you've got this high efficiency glass lens that protects the fixture. As far as power supplies go, this fixture has, LED fixtures run off of drivers. So that power supply is what's going to take that alternating current, convert it into direct current, and set that current at a steady pace for the fixture to actually be on all the time. That's what's living right here. So, when your fixtures today fail or go out, you have two problems most likely. It's either the lamp or it's the ballast that's failing. The lamp is obviously just those old lamps that you have to replace. The ballast is what a metal halide light power supply is. So what we have designed in this fixture is a integral power supply. There's 4 drivers in here that are redundantly powered, meaning if one of those drivers fails, you still have 3 drivers in there that are powering that entire fixture. So the whole point of this fixture was to try and eliminate outages, eliminate maintenance calls and times when, hey, you look up and there's a light out, right? If you have one driver tied to one fixture, anytime that driver fails, you've got a fixture out. If several of them fail, you've got several fixtures out. So this way, we've designed this system to where if a driver fails, okay, you have a little bit less light coming out, but you can see it in the control system, and you know that, hey, it's not out, but there's a little bit less light on that field. That is the number one reason that we have sold a ton of these fixtures in the last couple of years, is just because it simply eliminates a lot of these outages and kind of black eye effects of somebody saying, oh, look, that fixture's out. It just doesn't look good, and then starts to impact the play. So we would retrofit your existing poles, your existing cross arms. Like I said, replace the wiring so that you're not having to worry about wiring issues being, the culprit of anything. Mount these fixtures up there. Those optics, right, are great for directing the light. They are cut-off control, so you're not spilling light everywhere. I don't know if that's a huge issue here, but one issue that a lot of LED lights also have is they'll have a big cut-off visor and they won't let light get up in the sky. Well, I'm a baseball guy. I played baseball. It's an aerial sport, right? Somebody hits a pop fly or something, you need to be able to see it. So their solution is essentially to add more lights and flip them upside down and illuminate the sky that way. Our solution is we're just going to illuminate the sky with enough light from the top of the pole, using those optics to be able to see the baseball, soccer ball, whatever's flying through the air, and appropriately play the sport. So that's what we call our sports site technology. I think we talked about a lot of those. How am I doing on time? Am I getting close?
Yeah.
I'll go quick. I just want to hit on this too. We do a lot of testing in-house, okay? So there's a ton of engineering that goes into this. So, if this question is going to come down to price, I get it, but also keep in mind where you're getting your fixtures from. There is a ton of engineering and testing that goes behind these fixtures. If you're going to get something from China, you have no idea what's coming across there. You don't know how it was designed, engineered, tested, and the company that is actually warranting that fixture is somewhere in China, right? So 5 years down the road, good luck if you're looking to find out where they're at. We talked about the control system. The warranty is a 10-year warranty. It is on the fixtures. We also have an optional 10-year labor warranty that is not included in that quote. And here's the quote. I will say, so everyone familiar with Sourcewell and that process? Okay, so these are Sourcewell quotes. Here's that quote right here. And so one thing that we did, because I know that there's certain budgetary constraints, there's a company called NCL Government Capital, who is also a Sourcewell vendor. What they do is they do lease purchase on anything that's Sourcewell. So anything that you guys are going to buy through Sourcewell, if you had to do a lease purchase, they can finance things like that. So they put together just a mock financial option for you guys. If it works in the budget, if that's how you have to do it, great. If not, if it's this year, if it's next year, wherever, we can update the numbers. We can play with the installation. We can play with how we light the fields. This technology is changing very fast. We get huge upgrades in our fixtures every single year. They get more efficient. They run cooler. There's less failures. So we're really at a kind of a fun period with this technology, to where it kind of seems endless to how well it can run. I think that's the last slide. So
the trade-in is our old lights?
No.
No.
That's the $100,000 grant.
Yeah.
that we get.
Oh yeah. Hey, you know what?
It's like the Carmen Battery.
I heard a stand. You guys sell them. No.
It's on the shiny lighting.
Sell them back to Shawnee Light. There you go.
So if one of those 8
LEDs.
goes out, you have to, how do you replace it?
You replace the whole fixture. So
Whole
these
fixture,
fixtures
okay.
are not built
Okay.
or designed to be field maintained.
Okay.
Now I can tell you, as long as I've been here, I've never seen a chip fail. Like that's very rare. You'll see a power supply fail. That wireless air mesh card that's in there, that thing could get jostled loose. All the failures that I ever see on this fixture are failures that we see right at install. So it was something that got wired wrong in the factory, or during transportation, wire got jostled loose, and they go to power it and it's not working. So we just replace those and we get moving. But knock on wood, we do not see very many failures with these fixtures. Like I said, they are designed to be headache-free. Is essentially what we're going for.
So I know you in your proposal, you don't have any of those it's going to take. So what's one of those cost? That's one of them.
That's hard. It's probably in the $1,100-$1,200 range. Yeah.
How long should they last?
So those LEDs will last, 55,000 hours, which on average use is about 25 years. That's an 8% lumen loss at that point. So it's kind of a tricky question, because those aren't going to be the thing that fail, right? It's going to be those power supplies. Well, if you replace the power supplies, theoretically that fixture should just continue working for a very long time. As you can see, I invite anyone to come over here, pick it up, test it. we've been accused sometimes of the fixtures being over-designed. You know, you can see all the heat sinking on them and everything like that. The enemy of LED is heat. That is what kills electronics. And these are electronic fixtures. And I like to remind people that they're not electrical, they're electronic, right? That's how an LED fixture works. And so we do everything we can to keep heat and pull it away from those LEDs, pull it away from the drivers. So that's how that's, you know, it's die-cast aluminum. It is a tank of a fixture for all of those reasons, because we asked them to do quite a challenging task of putting them up on an 80-foot pole and expecting them to last 20 or 30 years through all of the elements and everything that we deal with weather-wise in the Midwest. It's a pretty cool engineering feat to be able to accomplish something like that.
So if hail knocks that out, is it warranty?
Hail would not be covered.
It'd be covered under our insurance.
It'd be covered under insurance.
And make sure you shake that mouse.
So I have, you know, all of these are going to be aimed downward, right? So it'd be a heck of a hailstorm to knock that out. Now, like I was telling you, you know, we just had Matt Holliday's son knock one out in right center field. Screamer of a home run. That's the first time I've ever heard of a fixture breaking like that, and we just replaced the glass on it. So nothing was damaged.
You can turn that on, can't you?
Yep. I won't point it at anybody. So, what's pretty cool is that from your point of view and your perspective, looking at this, right, you can kind of see all of those LEDs where they live in the silicone optic. And the fact that light, I mean, I can get pretty close to it without having to turn away. That is just those silicone optics pointing that light exactly where we want it to go and not where we don't want it to go. So if that were a metal halide lamp-based light source, I would be getting just as much light this direction versus that direction. And that's why they had those big visors and they were trying to redirect all the light and, you know, aim it to where they want it to go. We have the ability now to point it.
So on the install, there's multiple different types of the exact same fixture. And what he's talking about, the optics, there's last ones we put in was on Marietta football field. There's 4 different types, and it either gives a long throw or a short throw, and that's up to me to figure out or to follow the
which
design
one goes where, how it gets aimed, and then like I said, it's like a puzzle. So if they all get aimed perfectly, it looks incredible. You know, I go out on some fields and I can tell right away, you know, they didn't pay attention to which one went where, you know, first time installing it or something, and it doesn't look right, and so it has to be.
So let's say the poles by home plate would want the short throw, easy ones. The long throw would blind the batter. And so that's up to the design team to make sure that fixture goes where it's thrown, where the light's thrown where it needs to go.
So, you know, I'm curious, I would love to ask what concerns do you have, what issues do you have with the lights now? Is there anything about our design or our proposal that doesn't quite fit with what you were expecting or wanting? You know, one thing I will say is what makes this a little bit tough is the fact that there's a lot of shared poles out there between fields. So I think that's something that we've talked about before, right? Is, can we just do one field at a time? Well, that becomes a little bit tricky because you have a shared pole. So now you're going to have 2 different types of lighting running through that pole. Not to say that it's impossible or against code or anything like that, but it's definitely not recommended to have mixed types of lights on that pole. It'll be noticeable, and so that's the tricky part. Is the one way you could break this up would be by cloverleaf in soccer fields. That would make sense. Again, when you do that, it gets more expensive just because you now have 3 mobilizations of the installation team, right? So they have to come back out and do it. So, but we can slice and dice those quotes any way you want them. Like I said, our goal is to work with you guys and figure out a way to make it work with your infrastructure, your budget, and what you're looking to get out of the lights. So,
Good question. What is the 10-year labor, the optional labor warranty? What does that entail? And do you, what all on here would be fixable that would warrant?
Sure. So it's a good question. So the warranty that comes with the fixture, right, is a 10-year product warranty. So if there's something wrong with the fixture, it basically just gets replaced. You'll see it in the control system. You get like a notification, hey, fixture 5 on pole 7 is not working. There's some troubleshooting. If it doesn't work, we just send a new fixture and it gets replaced. The labor would be covering that actual work of replacing that fixture. So that's the cost that, is not included in the base warranty, but can be included in an additional warranty.
So it's not even a 30-day labor warranty or a year labor warranty?
Well, I mean, you guys, how do you guys normally handle, like, if you install a job, how long, do you have like a period of time where if it was
Standard
installation?
construction is 1 year
Yeah.
on,
So-
on, workmanship.
So labor is for a year?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
On workmanship issues for sure.
Yeah, that would be on workmanship issues, right? So, which again, most of these things will get caught. So the first time we go to power up fixtures, if there's something wrong with the fixture, that's when we'll see it. It won't turn on, it won't communicate, it gets replaced during that installation process.
In other words, you come back a week later after it's installed, there's no labor charge?
Correct.
Okay.
The drivers in there, you said there's 4 drivers in there,
4 drivers.
and are they replaceable? You said if one
Yes.
goes out, then we lose a little bit of
Right.
life, but
So that whole back component is, if you came over here, you would see that it's all bolted on the back. So that whole thing would come out. You put a new set of drivers on there.
that would be part of that labor.
Yeah. Well, that'd be part of the product warranty, not necessarily it's easier for us. So the way we've designed this is just rather than go out in the field and open these things up and work on them, we just replace them, send the old ones back to our shop to repair them or whatever, and it's no longer your problem. You just have a new fixture that gets replaced.
So the labor would be originating out of Shawnee, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So you'd have to pay drive time and equipment time.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, and those are the, you asked how much that is. It's usually about $250 per fixture for a labor warranty for 10 years. In my opinion, all warranties are essentially ways for companies to make more money, right? More times than not, you don't need it, but there's always the chance that you do, and it's covered. So it's no different than, going to the car dealership and do you want the extended warranty? There's 2 types of people out there. There's somebody that buys every warranty they give them, and there's somebody that just says, I'm not going to buy that.
So back under that scenario, 3 years from the time it's installed, so one goes that way, you have to make it out and replace it.
Right.
Is the drive time and the equipment, is all that going to be part of that warranty?
Well,
Or is it just the labor for when the guy's there working on it?
It's the full quote. So if it's Shawnee Lighting and there's drive time, or if it's anybody else that you want to have locally that has a lift and you just want them to go up there and replace it, that kind of there's honestly such a big shift from metal halide maintenance to LED. It's not a big part of our business model to have.
My question was, we have spent $1,000 to get the bucket truck and everything for Shawnee. It's not labor.
Well, that would be included, yeah. So, I mean, you guys, how would you quote that if there was one fixture out? Would you rent something here? Would you bring equipment? I mean,
We have a crane truck that will reach
Yeah.
these pictures.
So they would drive that truck
That's
up.
included in that labor warranty.
Right.
Yeah.
Send us another quote with that labor warranty,
Okay, yeah.
please.
Like included in the base or just as an adder kind of line?
Include the base.
Okay.
You'll have this one and that one to compare.
Sure. What other questions? Anything about controls? Like I said, so what the handouts that I gave you, right? Kind of the list of jobs that we've installed recently in Oklahoma. We've got the actual product quote and the labor quote, and then we've got the NCL government capital financing option. So, like I said, if we need to make changes, we absolutely can. Just really appreciate you guys, hearing us out, considering us. we'd love to find a way to make this work and get some new lights out there. That's all I've got.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Give me this.
Is there any question about the installation part of the, just real quick, I mean, Shawnee Lighting been in business since 1980, and I've been with them since 2018. They've service and installed on all 77 counties, from here to Drumright, down to Marietta, over to Granite, small towns. We've done Paycom Center, all the way to small. I'd rather work in small towns like this instead of, I'm from Calumet, so don't hold that against us. But when we do installs, we try to do it as if our kids and grandkids are going to play on the sports for as long as y'all's kids and grandkids are going to be on the fields, and as long as the warranty is going to last. Our install is where we put it to last that long, not the 1 year. I mean, the 1 year is good, but 370 days from now, that's not a good warranty. So anything from us, just let us know, and let these guys know. We'll get it taken care of for you. Good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Saw your brother the other day.
Did you?
We were all sad. That's the
Yep, that's tough.
Share what we do if you want. I'll put together all the proposals that we've seen so far. We can bring them to the next meeting and evaluate them and take a decide on a path forward from there on how we want to, or even if we want to proceed. But I can bring them, lay it all out and look at them side by side and decide what's the best. So.
Are you going to present at the next council meeting?
No. We'll probably have any further discussion. So, I've got all the proposals. We'll just lay them out for everybody who wants to look at it and see what financially makes sense.
Right. Good. Again, just all.
Thank you.
Down the road.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll just let you keep that drive so you have access to the presentation.
Okay. Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Discussion and action to recommend approval to the City of Alva Economic Development Authority, the Hatfield Park Master Plan. So what are differences here, or is this the same thing that we've looked at in the past?
No, there were a few changes. The old one had the amphitheater on the south end. You'll see that it's now moved down to the north end. Trying to think what other, you remember what else was there, Steve? What other big changes that we made?
That was the biggest one, to be honest with you. And I think they took the dog park out, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, other than that, those are the two big changes.
That white line, is that a walking path, like a sidewalk? Or no?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a, yeah, it's a walking path.
So there's a walking path in from, I mean, you always have a big circle there.
Yeah, and you got the hiking trails that kind of go back up into the woods too. So, yeah,
Is that cement or?
as far as I know, it is, yeah. I think that's what it called for. And I think the last quote we got on this from Kimley Horn was roughly $5 million. And part of the reason this is important to get this approved is we have a funding opportunity through TSET for something basically like this, and the minimum is at least $3 million to even apply for the grant. So if we have an approved master plan, that actually helps our chances of getting approved for the grant because it shows that we have a plan, we've done some work already, and it's, kind of have something on the shelf, almost shovel ready. So that's kind of what TSET likes to, they like for all their grants to be shovel ready as soon as they approve them.
And done in phases, but as long as we show this master plan, we understand if we get that that T said, you know, it's not gonna cover the whole thing, we understand that.
Well, I said that minimum is 3 million. We can ask for 5 million.
Yeah.
We can ask for 5.5 million. We can ask for what we want to, you know?
And was Kenley Horn gonna charge us for this?
I'd have to go look, I don't remember.
I don't know that I've heard a number on that.
Are we okay with Kenley Horn? I mean, is there somebody else out there we wanna look at with our past experience with the ball fields and the?
I don't know, if there's, I'll be honest with you, we can ask.
I mean, I'm not against doing something like this, I'm just wondering if Kenley Horn's the ones we want.
I think they're the major engineering firm for stuff like this in Oklahoma. A lot of folks I've talked to use them for a lot of things, so. But, yeah, I mean, I can ask around, see if there's any others. I can reach out to the city managers, find out if they've used any other engineers for this kind of thing. And I don't think it would matter if
Oh, okay.
we, in the future, decide to go with another engineer, at least for this case, we have this master plan to apply for this grant. And if it changes in the future to a different engineer, you know, it doesn't, it's not gonna matter.
Do we know what we've already paid Kenley Horn to date on this project?
Roughly 50,000. We
On
paid for,
the Hatfield Park
yeah,
project.
we paid for half of it, and then the Friends of Play paid for
Friends
the
of
other half,
Library, yeah.
so.
So there's some phase one stuff on here. Is that part of what we would be approving as well, or is it phase one?
Next is we try to give it a break it up to kind of try to keep the cost down. But like I said, if we can get pretty apply for the full Monty on this grant, then they'd probably still put it in phases, just because that kind of makes more sense. You're not going to do everything all at once.
That would be a later approval process,
It
later
would,
discussion is the priorities
Right.
that we see here.
And the grant is, if you get the grant for the full 3 million, or is it a portion, or how does that work?
Now, it's from what I understand, there's no max to it. And like I said, but our minimum going in is we have to have a shovel-ready project of at least $3 million. Like I said, it can be more, but it has to be a minimum of $3 million. So I don't know how many other towns are going to have a shovel-ready project for at least $3 million. So I think maybe they had the volume on this one.
I guess there are some solar lighting already down there now.
There are.
And they work adequately, and they get enough
Yeah.
sunlight down there.
They get enough sunlight, but they're not the greatest, not the brightest lights.
So
It's kind of spotty.
do we not
Greg,
have
it's like
access
a spot.
to electricity?
Do we have
Do
one?
we not have access to electricity? There is electricity.
There are a few poles out there that have electricity on them, but for some reason, I don't know when, they decided to go with the solar lights, so.
I think go with electric.
You'd want electric.
I agree.
If you go up there and you drive through it tonight, it's literally lighting the area 20
Yeah.
feet.
It's spotty.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of dark spots as you're driving around, walking out there, so.
Especially if you're gonna have a walking trail.
Yeah.
What is the practice field area that's over just north of the pool?
It's just like an area for people to go
Just an open space?
practice soccer, baseball, whatever they're gonna do.
Just grass.
Just grass,
Just
yeah.
grass.
Yeah.
Parking lot for people to watch softball.
Your husband.
We would entertain a motion for item 7.
On the pond reconstructed, so is that digging out the pond and everything, or, you know, what does
I
that
think it would
entail?
be just on that, the way I look at it is just more on that south side
Yeah.
of cleaning out that whole south side, and I do know that we've got to get some kind of fountain or irrigation system in there so it doesn't kill those fish again, yeah. But I
How
think it's
deep
just
is
cleaning all
that north end?
the north end?
If it's full, if the pond's full, it's probably good 10, 12 foot deep maybe, but.
We see quite a few kids fishing there.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea if they could to dredge it out a
That's
little
what I'm saying,
bit.
dredge it.
Yeah. I know they've thrown some old cedar trees and stuff in there to create a fish spawning habitat. So, and you can see those trees in there when it was really down a couple years ago. But you can't see them now.
Plus to put in the aeration system, that's one of the things that we're hoping to do, is figure out how much the half level.
But yeah, we don't need a bunch of dead fish again.
No, that was
Figure
nasty.
something out with that.
Yeah, they're the ones that did it several years ago.
Okay.
So that may save you some money on it.
The Byron Fish Hatchery, she said that the last time it was done, they had come over to do that, the dredging of the.
Oh, did they? Cool.
And then if you can get a grant through the Department of Wildlife for it,
Okay.
so
All right. Take all
the city didn't pay for any of it the last time.
the grants we can get.
Yeah. And you may just call, I think his name is Charles.
That's for the mine.
Yes,
You need a motion,
yeah. Because they also do the stocking, so he can tell you a lot about it.
I make a motion to approve the Hatfield Park Master Plan.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Fisher,
Yes.
Glass,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Shoelike,
Yes.
Swallow.
Yes.
Discussion and action to recommend approval to the City of Alva Economic Development Authority, the prices and rules for the Corey Washburn Family Memorial Swimming Pool.
Did everybody have a chance to kind of look over there? Do we have changes? Is there anything? I mean,
What's your thought process on the 4 to 5 being $1? You would want to mess with that or just keep it all the same?
it was just brought up in the pool committee as far as maybe doing a discounted price later in the day. What we're actually hoping is that most people have season passes anyway. And so that's why I kind of put the question mark on there. It was just brought up in the pool meetings, and so we threw that in there. These prices, what I did is I've kind of just went surrounding areas, pools about the same size as ours, and this is about the average, the 3 to 5, 3 to 6 range for prices. Season passes, of course, were all over the place with different pools. So these are numbers that I came up with, and I'm more than happy to listen, take recommendations on something or whatever anybody suggests.
On the private parties, how many lifeguards would that be?
Shane, I've got to really check with the health department to see requirements of how many per person, because I don't know that right off the top of my head.
Right now, the lifeguard requirement is set by the health department of the state, and it's not necessarily per person, it's based off square footage of the pool. So according to them, we have to have, 6.7 lifeguards on duty at all times?
But I think with private parties though, I
It may
think
be
that might
smaller.
come down to a number, because, you see a bunch of private parties at Biggs Pool and you can't have your whole staff there.
right. No,
So I think with private parties, I think it is a different number, but I don't know what that is.
What's the pool capacity?
I want to say it's at 400. Trying to think back to what they said. I think it's 400, and now I think about it. And you're right, on the private parties, they'll probably kind of control where they are. They probably won't all be from end to end of the pool. They'll all probably be either down there jumping off the diving board, or there'll be little kids up there playing in the fountain and on the slides, the little slide thing. So that'll probably make that easier to control.
How are you gonna manage the season pass? Is it gonna be like a card?
Well, that's the other thing, and,
I saw that system
Didn't I
you
send you
sent,
guys
you
send
sent
that
that, so
system?
it's like, you know, if you have like a family of 3, and you have 2 that can go to the pool without an adult, are they just gonna have their card?
they can have their card, but also that system is, if they give them a name, you can also put their pictures in there and
Okay.
say, this is your name,
But
that'll pop up,
they can also put their pass in their phone,
yes.
and they can go up there and open their phone with that picture of their pass and scan
Most of
that.
the kids have phones nowadays, but yeah, it
So-
could be a,
It'd be a card or phone or a picture, so.
but it can be, we can assign pictures to each pass.
Pass, okay.
Yeah, so we know that, you know, some boy's not trying to get in under your daughter's.
No, I was just wondering how you're gonna manage it. If you got that many kids with season passes, that's hard
Yeah.
for a person.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get an electronic system.
Yeah.
There's no way around it, I mean.
That's what I did like about that one, is because they could have like a season pass card that they scan or on their phone, or if they left it at home, it'll still pull up their name and their picture, and so it's still registers.
So Courtney, I hope you find a pool manager,
I do too, Greg.
but are we really gonna be closed one day a week?
Well, we've got to think about when you need to do a deep cleaning.
Well, just for fun, I looked at Hennessy, Woodward, Perryton, Canyon, Texas, and they're all open 7 days.
They're all open 7 days a week.
I
And,
mean, just think for what it's been spent on this.
right, and the pump system, you know, we may find out the pump system works so well that it doesn't, you know, back when our pumps weren't working real well, it took a lot more cleaning because it just didn't, and maybe it won't.
He told us the other day how often you got to vacuum that thing. What was it, twice a day?
No.
I can't remember what it was, maybe it was twice a week. So that shouldn't be that
And
bad.
you know, that's something that
Good
can
morning.
run after hours,
Or do it in the morning.
but, you know, hey, I don't mind being open, well,
I don't want
hold on
you
a
there.
second.
I don't want you to have to be there, but I think we ought to be open 7 days a week.
I'm good with that.
And do we like the 1 to 6? Do we want to open at noon? I mean, is a 1 to 6 suitable? Is it a noon to 6? And you know, we'll be doing some night swims, some adult nights, things like that.
And do we have a camera system up there?
We will. We've got to figure out what Wi-Fi we're going to get up there first, but we are talking about some kind of security system,
Yeah,
yes.
I think we're probably gonna, because all of our phones now in the city are IP based, we're probably gonna buy a Starlink system up there. Because that's what Starlink is, you can say, hey, turn me on from May 1st to September 1st. After that, shut it off, you know? And then we're not paying for internet for those months that we're not open. But we'll keep the system there, it'll be up, and then next year, call them up and fire it right back up. So, thank you, Elon Musk. So.
And, you know, the other thing is do we think kids 10 and up are okay going up there by themselves?
I would say. Grew up going to the pool every day when we were
Right.
that age.
Yeah, and this was about the average for all of them. That's why, you know, that's why I thought it would be okay. But
Is there certain parts of the pool that you have to prove that you know how to
Yes.
swim and those
yeah,
types of things?
diving board area, the deeper end, you will have to pass like
Just
a
testing
swim
stuff,
test.
yeah.
What are we doing on sessions?
We're just gonna,
Ticket booth area.
yeah, ticket booth area out there. We're gonna buy a couple of refrigerators, to keep out there, keep candy bars and sodas and stuff cold. And just whoever's running the ticket booth will run a concession too, because that's kind of a break for that person in that rotation, because they're in the shade, they're not out there in the heat, they, have a chair to sit down on.
Is that what's gonna be on that south, east corner? That
Yes.
When you drive by, it's got the wall built up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
the
ticket booth.
entry now. You won't come in the front door, you'll come in that side.
Okay. It looks good.
I said, anytime you guys wanna go up there, just give me a call. I'll meet you up there and we'll meander about smartly.
It is kind of neat if you guys have a chance
Yeah,
to take
it's-
a look at it and really go in and look at everything up close and personal.
Yeah, it's really, tell you, the amount of work they've gotten done in just a few months is impressive.
So realistically, are you thinking like first or second week of June?
Yeah, I think it's what we're looking at, just to be safe. I mean, but I'm not gonna put anything out there yet until she's trained, The lifeguards are ready to go. I mean, it may be kind of a quick 1 week notice to have a ribbon cutting, but
And once that plaster goes down, as the pool starts filling, we've got to make sure everything's great there. We've got to
Yeah.
make sure that the pumps are pumping, you know,
slide
adequate.
inspection,
Put chemicals
everything.
in there, slide inspections. You know, it's going to be those little details. As long as everything passes, you know, once they start filling that, then
Yeah.
we should be good. I know that I put general rules and slide rules on here. There are some specific slide rules that when they do the slide testing and everything, I get a list of height, weight, all that kind of
Yeah, that all
stuff.
comes
And
from
just like the rock
manufacturer, right?
wall, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you can't be over a certain weight to be on that rock wall, because that sucker is big. If you haven't driven by there and looked at the rock wall, they put one section up already, and it's very tall.
They get 2 more sections to put.
So I have a rock wall and a
Guideboard.
guideboard sign, both,
Yeah.
good.
We can't operate both at the same time. So,
Okay, now.
I think the rock wall is more, the
Yeah.
rock wall's a great deal, because I know when we took the kids to Woodward.
They
played
flocked
on
to
it
it.
times, yeah.
And they self-regulate pretty well where they're taking turns on 2 sides.
Yeah.
It goes well.
it'll be fun.
7 lifeguards, is that right? Is that what you said?
It seems,
Man,
It's a lot.
Like I said, it's based off square footage. And
Then
it's,
you gotta think of, you know, you've got someone that runs a ticket booth, and you've got someone on break, and, you know, rotation. So you're looking at
8, 9 a day.
8 to 10 a day that we're gonna have. And I think I have, right now, I got another application today, I think I have 13 or 14 that have applied.
And I budgeted for,
I think you budgeted for 15 or 17.
I budgeted for 14 lifeguards, assistant manager and manager. Assuming that the assistant manager and manager are also lifeguards that if they had to stand and watch, they could. You know,
how much do you pay lifeguard ballpark?
I don't know, because I just asked you what the manager and pool manager was at. I didn't ask you about what the lifeguards were.
lifeguards are 5s, 5 ones.
I have to look at that. Let me look at my
I can tell you
scale.
on mine
got
if I
your
can
scale on
see.
there.
If I can find it.
Pool manager's right around, well, hold on a second.
Where did I put this?
Do you want a job?
I can't swear.
This computer right on top of me.
Pretty good labor bill every day.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
take a lot of ice cream and pop.
Let's see, they are, sorry, 4 ones. So $11.75 an hour is what that's gonna pay.
It's $100 an hour in labor.
It's gonna lose money. It's not a money making.
Right.
Quality of life.
I'm just curious how much was it cost?
It's gonna cost.
Yeah, with that many,
A lot.
too, 8 to 10 on a daily, you gotta think, you know, people taking days off and sick, and you've gotta have about 14 or 15 lifeguards on payroll.
Just great rotation, and like you said, give people a break, give them a day or so off.
And I can't be up there every day lifeguarding. Only on the days I need a tan. But does anybody see any problems, anything that we need to mark out, we need to adjust? That's why we're here.
You want to adjust the Monday through 7 days a week until we figure out the pumps, and then we can adjust it later.
Listed as 7 days a week? Yeah,
And then
I wrote that.
adjust it later.
Yeah,
Pump.
if we
have
see
to
that,
shut
yeah,
down.
if we have to see, yeah.
And if something weird happened, we needed to close for a day to do some sort of maintenance or something, you know, you always put that on Facebook and on the city app, say, pool's gonna be closed tomorrow.
So is
For maintenance, I mean,
Or-
sometimes you can't help that stuff. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was thinking, do we have bike racks and stuff to put out in front of the pool?
There's one,
Where?
that little black screw thing does like this.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Oh,
still
I
there.
thought they pulled it out.
Still there.
Enough most kids be riding their bike or
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
so the bottom of the general rules, no animals in the pool or on the pool deck anytime.
Mhm.
Can we just not say no animals, dogs at all?
If it's a service animal, you technically
Yeah,
can.
you can.
We can
Hey,
do the service animal at the
Service
pool.
animals allowed
Huh?
only.
What are you gonna do with the service animal at the pool?
Who knows?
I mean, that's the only thing, because technically, and we can't even ask people to, if it's actually a,
Service dogs.
you can't ask for the papers or anything like that. You can, if they say it's a service dog, you have to take their word for it. I would like to say no animals, I mean, but I don't,
Uh-huh. Sorry.
Haters.
I feel like first on the airplane with the belt. I think it looks good.
Down here at the bottom, you have the same statement twice,
oh, probably.
fishing and pulling.
Oh, mhm. Well, what I did is I highlight,
Yeah, bulleted
I
those
bulleted
and then-
those and then I didn't take that, yeah, so it's.
So Shane, somebody makes a motion on this, you have to say,
Inappropriate.
read the motion, and then add, that
Inappropriate.
we change it to being open 7 days a week.
Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the rules and add it 7 days a week.
I second it.
Motion and a second to approve the rules with a change for full hours open 7 days a week. Roll call.
Tucker,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Glass,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Swallow.
Yes.
All right, remarks and inquiries by board members. I want to give a kudos to your staff for the tournament. It was a really good
It
tournament,
was excellent.
baseball tournament. That's as filled as I've seen that parking lot, both parking lots. And the informal data, just talking to other coaches, talking to people, was incredibly positive about the way the tournament was run, but also the playing surface and just all the amenities. It was, and I asked all those people just, what do you think? And nothing but really good things about all of it. So
I think the big difference I notice even with our league is our umps. I think do a very good job where we go play other places, nothing wrong with it, but we got a 12-year-old umping
Yeah.
the game, and it's just, it's not ran the same way.
Well, and that is very key, because that's what some of those coaches decide if they're gonna come back or not. If you don't have very good officials, you're not gonna get anybody back. My staff did a wonderful job. I know it was long, it was tiring, but definitely couldn't do it without my staff. I couldn't do it without all of my gate workers. I mean, it takes a lot to run it, and everything pulled together pretty good. So.
very good. All right, we're adjourned.